Hi guys, welcome to a new video, and this one is about specifically the new features that have been announced for Football Manager 2015. I've just watched, well I say I just watched, I've already tried to record this video once, only to realise that my mic wasn't on, so that's some professional ability right there. So this is my second attempt at this. I've just watched the announcements of the new features, so I thought we'd go through them in a video. So firstly, you guys can see what they are if you haven't watched the video and don't want to wait and find out what they are at a later date. And just because I want to talk about them, because I've got things to say about some of these. Now, the first one of these features, this video might be shorter than the first time I've recorded it, just because I'm a bit pushed for time now. So we're going to try and burn through some of these, so I don't keep you for too long as well. Now, the first of the new features is a sidebar interface, which I think some of you that may have seen the screenshots that are floating around will have already seen to this point. It's the lovely sort of ergonomical, minimalistic sidebar down the side, which means that they've incorporated some new menu features into that too, such as finances. Things that just weren't present in the game before are now, not weren't present, but were hidden and are now more prominent in the game, which is kind of cool and nice to see, basically. Moving along, tracksuit or tactical manager roles, which is very, very cool. I like this a lot. And the way this is going to work is you either choose a tactical or a tracksuit manager, and your attributes are based around those two things. So if you're a tracksuit manager, you're going to have better coaching attributes. If you're a tactical manager, obviously your tactical attributes are going to be better. Now, you can also choose your coaching badge at the start, which is a really cool idea, I'd like to think. And I will be using that for some of my series. And you can also get it to suggest you what coaching badge and level of experiences you should have based on the club you've chosen to manage, which is another cool role. I actually do have a screenshot of this, but there's another one floating around the internet. If you want to look at it, I will probably put the screenshot of that thing as I am talking right now, but it will probably disappear right now as we move on to the next one. Match engine's been updated. Thank God, because the match engine does piss me off sometimes. It's nice to see that they're actually updating it, and I guess they've got a long-term plan on where they want to take the match engine, because at the moment it's pretty shit. But compared to other games, it does the thing it's supposed to do, I guess. You can't really argue with that. Basically, they've added a new lighting system and 2,000 new animations. Or over 2,000 new animations. They've been working with the guys over at Creative Assembly to do this, which is brilliant. And having seen some of the animations in their sort of release promo video, what I've just watched with all the new features, it does look a lot better, I must say, especially the goalkeepers. That's something that's definitely worth noting. The goalies look great. And the lighting does look much nicer, that has to be said. Mid-game team talks kind of comes under that too. You can now do team talks during the game. It's not really the right word to call it. It's essentially like managers screaming their heart out from the touchline, trying to give instructions during the game, as opposed to team instructions. It's more like manager shouts, similar to what they had in FIFA Manager a couple of years ago or something like that. That's the kind of system that's been employed, whether you talk to the whole team or you can talk to groups of players or individual players by themselves. I think as long as it has an actual effect on the way things go in the game, that could be a really cool feature to add into it as well. Updated stadium graphics. Now, this for me is something that I'd like to... I've been looking forward to seeing something like this, because the stadiums do all look very similar. Now they've updated it, so the stadiums, there is a much greater variety of stadiums in the game, whether that be roofless stadiums like you find in South America, the terraces of some parts of the UK. It just looks much nicer. There's even hot dog vans in the corner. I don't know whether they've got a cottage for Craven Cottage, but you'd like to think they could maybe just slip that in there as a little Easter egg. Who knows? But there's also banners and crowd stuff now, so that would be cool. And I think there might be an opportunity for some people to make banners for the game, and maybe there'll be a new folder that you can drop that sort of stuff into and have it appear in the game. Then there's definitely an opportunity for some brand new types of, not modding, but you know what I mean, extensions for people to make this year. Also, the stadiums will now be coloured to reflect the team's colours, and that's something that I've really been looking forward to seeing as well. It will make the stadiums feel that much more authentic for each team, so that's huge, and I like that a lot. More intelligent AI managers. Now, this is good, because often I found that I'd come up against the same team several times with different managers, and they'd always be using the same formations, and it got a bit boring. There's loads of formations in the game, but the managers always tended to use the same types of formations over and over and over. Now, managers are going to be more intelligent, and so they will utilise the best formation for the players that they've got, which is worrying, because it means that the game might be quite a lot harder, or it might be easier. It just depends. But then just makes it more of a challenge and a little bit more like real life, basically, because I'm sure that their intelligence is going to be governed by their attributes as well. So you might still get really, really stupid managers in the game too, which would be good, because I look forward to coming up against some of those. Player roles. Now, there are 4 new player roles this year. We've got the Roaming Playmaker, which is essentially a cross between the Advanced Playmaker and the Deep Line Playmaker. I'm not entirely sure on what the purpose of that role is, other than to roam around the midfield, but surely you just have one or the other. I don't know. I'm not too keen on that one. I do like this one, though. We've got something called a Raumdeuter, which is a German word, obviously. It means space something. I don't remember the second word it means. But basically, it's a wing or wide player that likes to play on the periphery of attacks. I don't really know what that means. So if you want to find out what that means, you might want to have to go and watch the full video. Miles does explain it a lot better than I am, because I'm just going from my memory here, and it was a long half an hour thing, and I could only take as many notes as I could during that period. There is also oh Christ, what was it? Yes, inverted wingbacks, which is it's a sort of South American thing, similar to the sort of thing that you see from South American sides. Basically, it's like a normal wingback, except they'll make runs through the middle of the pitch. I'm pretty sure people like Roberto Carlos used to do that sort of thing in the 90s. So that's kind of cool. And the other one is a wide playmaker. So lots of playmaker roles here. If you've got a wide player that's very creative, you can now assign them to become a wide playmaker, which is just going to be like a normal playmaker, but he's pacey, he's down the wing, and can create things from the wing, which is going to be quite cool as well, I think. New scouting. The scouting has been improved, thank God. I like the scouting, but these improvements that they've suggested look much, much better. Basically, now you can ask your scouts to find players based on other players. So you could say, I want to replace or find players like insert name of player here. Find me them. And they'll bring back players for you like that. Also, it's just been totally revamped. They will suggest new countries for you to scout. They will plan all this sort of stuff for you. They'll tell you if they're not happy scouting a certain place because they felt they've done all they can. The new interface for the scouting looks really nice. Everything is displayed in a much more concise way, and I really look forward to using the new scouting system, because I haven't used scouting as much as I should. I just used the star rating, but now I think the depth to it should actually be better. And I think this is because of SI's new partnership with Recruiter, that Prozone project they were working on. I think this is going to massively help the scouting system in the game. Pros and cons menu on the players, which again is another really cool feature, which will help you decide whether or not a player is worth signing based on attributes other than just their playing ability. So things like their temperament, wage demands, their inability to come on as a substitute in a Champions League final against Borussia Dortmund, Carlos Tevez, things like that. See, that could have been avoided with a menu like that, or in theory. That's the kind of stuff that it's trying to aim itself at, basically. Browser-esque search bar. Right, I like this idea. It kind of looks like Google Chrome. Basically, at the top of the page, you just type stuff in and it goes. And you get a nice little cool drop down. It's all very fancy looking, and I actually really like it. It's one of my favourite little features in terms of aesthetics, which I really, really like. And hopefully, if it works, that is, which it looks like it did, because in the demo it did anyway, but it's hard to tell. That could be an awesome feature for the game as well. Improved player interaction. Now, basically what this is that now, instead of just having, firstly, there's a wider variety of talks you have with your players, but secondly, you can now talk to more than one player at once, but not in a team meeting setting. So you could talk to 3 of them about a specific issue if they're all having worries about your finances or something. And secondly, if you have a bad effect on a player through something you've said, he could tell other people, and they could then get a negative opinion of you as well, which would then you'd have to sort out. This could lead to full-on dressing room revolts, that kind of thing, which is interesting and gives a whole new dynamic to the system. And you may have to pay more attention to your player interactions and your man management skills this year, which gives another sort of dimension to the game, which is kind of cool. Greater depth to press conferences. Now, this one I'm not too enthused about, because I don't like press conferences until such time as they have a real bearing on something that can happen in the game and they have a real negative or positive effect on things. I really don't see the point in them, and I always just send my assistant to do them. I did try them for a bit, but I didn't notice any difference doing it, so I don't do it. Now you get asked you get like questions in the tunnel before games as well as questions at training, so even more questions. So if you hate press conferences, you're really going to hate that one, I can assure you of that. Moving along, we have budgets given earlier, and this was one of my pet peeves on Football Manager 14. Budgets were given way too late, so you didn't know how much money you were going to have, so you could start arranging signings, and this is something that's really important. Now, they're going to be given sort of late May kind of time, maybe even earlier than that. That means you'll have a better idea of how much money you're going to have, as well as the fact that players that are going to be leaving the club and whose contracts are expiring will not be counted in that budget, so you can actually use the money, which is good. Also, you'll get a commercial summary at the end of the year which tells you about how much the club has been earning based on things like shirt sales, kit sponsors, all this kind of cool stuff, and even things like renting out your training facilities, which is kind of cool. Increased variety with job interviews. Now, job interviews was something that came in this year on Football Manager, and they're increasing the variety. So that means the number of questions you're being asked, the great variety of questions will vary depending on how long you've had the career. So if you've been in it long enough to have been relegated or promoted, they will ask you questions based on those things that have happened to you in the past, because it might put them off. It's nice. I like to see that kind of thing. It just adds a bit more depth to the game. Updated training. Now, the training has not been touched that much. There's some slight changes to do with the amateur and semi-professional thing, which makes it more realistic. But the main thing that they've changed is to do with individual training, which is basically they've changed it so that now, when you're training a player for an individual role, for example, advanced playmaker, you can now choose whether you're training them for a defensive or, well, you wouldn't be defensive, but support or attack role, which is good because there are differences between them, and sometimes you want to be very, very specific, even within the subset of roles within roles. So that's good to see, and I like that. And you can also not use that, so you could just train it purely for advanced playmaker and it will train all the attributes needed. So that's good as well. They didn't just completely annihilate it. This was genuinely one of my favourite features, Movember. Now, those of you who don't know, Movember is a charity where every November men grow moustaches to support good causes. I think it's to do with cancer. I can't actually remember. I have done it a couple of times, so I really should know that. Basically, players are going to grow moustaches in the game. I'm guessing this only works for regens because you'd have a job putting it on actual pictures of players. But basically, regens will grow moustaches through the month of November. Different varieties of moustaches too, not always the same one, and they will grow throughout the month of November. And I genuinely can't wait for a 16-year-old regen with a full-on handlebar moustache. That is what I'm looking forward to. They will all look like members of the Village People, and that is why I want that. That's a great feature. It's really cool, and that's just fantastic to see. And the last thing is Twitch.tv integration. Now, I can't use Twitch at the moment in terms of I can't stream because I have terrible internet and a terrible computer. However, when I do have a better internet connection and better computer, I would love to do streaming, like just a streaming save, basically, with you guys for the channel. Maybe put the highlights on, I don't know. That's something for the future, but it's nice to see that I now could from within the game if I wanted to. Now, that's about all the new features that I could sort of ascertain from the notes I was furiously taking whilst watching the announcements, as it were. I want to know what you guys think about this. Are there any things that you would have liked to have seen in the game that aren't in it? Are there any things that are in it that you think really don't need to be? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I will be doing some videos on Football Manager 15 on the beta when I get my key. Oh, that's important. 7th of November is the release date, which means that the beta will be coming out. The game comes out in exactly 1 month time, which means the beta will come out in around about 2.5 weeks. So I look forward to doing that. The moment that beta comes out, I will be announcing my new series is for Football Manager 15. One of them will be a rebuilding series. That is all I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you the club because I'm not fully decided yet, but we will be doing a proper rebuilding series like we've been doing with Fulham, but much more in depth and possibly longer. I've got all kinds of ideas for series that we're going to do this year. I'm really looking forward to showing you what we can get up to this year on Football Manager, as well as some tutorials on little things that, I don't know, we'll get into that in another video. But for now, we're going to head off because this video is getting a little bit long now for an update video. If you like what you've seen, hit the like button. If you like to do even more than that, then you hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.